in need of? How can we as a people, as a community, help?
The shelters, this shelter has been greatly helped, and I believe I can speak for many of the other shelters, that we have quite a few in-kind goods coming in, such as the needed clothing and toiletry items and food. But what we really need are people bringing their creativity and devotion and intelligence to helping with jobs and housing, especially for those who find it more difficult in those areas, such as those returning from the criminal justice system. They need to be given an equal chance. They've served their time, but it's like they have 20 more times difficulty finding jobs and housing. But that being said, we need a whole lot more creative thinking and advocating on the systemic level, the way we vote, our civic decisions around such things as jobs and housing, to help people who I really believe here at the shelter, for instance, it's easy to look at the outside and say, oh, these men are lazy, they don't want to work. By and large, the men I've met over the years are not lazy. They want to work, but the issue of, oh, so few jobs, so little housing, the affordable income. So, and also thinking about affordable income as well as another issue. I am thinking we need advocates here in Cleveland to help the shelters, advocates on governmental things such as that.
That's really good to know. How many do you feed a day?
That depends on the time of the month. I don't have a clear figure on that. For breakfast and dinner, approximately, for breakfast about 400 men. For dinner, about 300. For lunch, we serve about 200 men. So you can add that up. That's how many men we serve.
Wow. And the last question, what is the turnover of the men that come in, that do they find jobs and housing, and then they're, they no longer need to rely on the shelter?
Okay. Last year, 4,500 unduplicated individuals, that's different people, just men, came through this shelter, 4,500. Average length of stay was something like 38 days, around in there. And from that, I hear there were something like 800 positive housing incomes, meaning men found appropriate housing. All of our programming is orienting men to become independent and get into housing. And it follows the Housing First model, where the thinking is one is more likely to be able to successfully address their issues that may have contributed to homelessness if they're in their own home, rather than their mind being somewhat splintered here at a shelter where it's just too noisy to be able to fully address your issues. So the push is really to get into appropriate housing. I believe it was like 800 positive housing outcomes last year.
Okay. Wow, that is something else. This interview is for an art class that I have. Do you think there is a connection between homelessness and art?
Art can be a vehicle for the spirit and really for speaking out in a way that gets at a deeper level than just discursive, on the surface knowledge. It can get down into your subconscious, into your feelings. And I know there's great artists who really can speak out on art and present a perspective that provokes people, that wakes them up. I personally have done something called Portraits of Homelessness, Foundation's paid for a set to travel our region. It's 50 portraits and stories of the men who have come through here. And we are at different venues, often holding forums on homelessness. When people see the actual face, the look in someone's eye, and hear the actual story, it can have it's so different from the statistics that you might hear in newspapers, and it can move a person to awareness and ultimately to action around issues of homelessness.
Wow. Thank you, Miss Lydia, for taking the time out to talk with us and have this interview. We're hoping that this interview, this project will go further than just my teacher in the class, so we can get the word out to help not just LMM shelter, but all the shelters where we can get the resources and the things needed so that we can try to accomplish the poverty, the rate of the poverty level. So I thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
God bless you.
God bless.